The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
At this point, we're just going to detain. Okay.
Put your hands on your back.
Please let her go. Please let her go.
Then give me your name.
I did something wrong. She didn't.
What did you do?
She doesn't know what I did.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me talk to you over here. Okay, I'll put you back.
What is it that you did wrong?
I did something really wrong.
Who was the Slender Man stabber with when she was caught? We're digging deeper into Morgan Geyser's transgender companion. Plus, rumors swirling about the teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body. Frozen, not frozen. Why so much conflicting information? Also this hour, gearing up for our next big trial, the murder trial of Brian Walsh. Opening statements start next week, and child killer Shonda Vander Ark asking for a new trial while she has a pounding headache in court. The prosecutor from the hearing will join us live this hour. It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. Good morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant on this Wednesday morning, Thanksgiving Eve. We are getting ready for the holidays. Hopefully you will be spending it with friends, family, and taking some time to give thanks. We all have lots to give thanks to. Shonda Vander Ark, boy, did you watch that yesterday? The killer in court, she wants a new trial. We're going to dive into that. We have the prosecutor in this case. Can't wait to talk to her about it. I mean, she came in with a headache, couldn't move on, didn't want, the judge had enough of it. We're going to break all of that down. And does she really have an opportunity to get a new trial? We'll see. 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, her body found in that Tesla owned by Singer D4vd. LAPD acting a little odd. They want to shut down rumors on one hand, but then they want to keep the coroner quiet. So we'll get into that as well. But as we always do on the show, we start with a look at the daily docket.
This is what I'm going to tell you. This is as big as it gets. This case. It's as scary as it gets. It's as horrific as it gets. And it puts all of us in a fear zone like no other.
As a judge talking to Ricardo Castillo. He is sentenced today in Michigan, 9 o'clock. He's a former Marine recruiter who broke into a home with an intent to kill everybody inside, ended up stabbing an 11-year-old. The defendant said he wanted to have sex with a dead body. That should be something. We're also talking about the murder for hire case for Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan this morning. We have newly released body camera footage of confessed hitman Henry Tennan's arrest. And later this morning, we're going to turn our attention to Massachusetts for unaired hearing footage for defendant Kelsey Fitzsimmons. She is a former police officer accused of pointing a gun at her colleague. So, yes, our courtroom shut down today? Absolutely. But we've got lots ahead here on Court TV. We're going to start, though, our top story. We're learning more about that Slender Man stabber, Morgan Geyser, the person that she was with when she escaped the group home from Wisconsin. Geyser's companion is a transgender friend, and apparently the pair met each other a couple months ago at a church in Madison, Wisconsin. Remember, Geyser was at this halfway house and had certain privileges, including going to church with her ankle monitor. Well, apparently she did Morgan, 43-year-old Charly Mecca. And the 23-year-old Geyser and Mecca ended up leaving. She cut off her bracelet, did Geyser, and they were picked up at a truck stop in Illinois. This was about 24 hours after Geyser fled that group home 150 miles away. Now, Geyser's accomplice reportedly took responsibility in a local interview, claiming Geyser ran because of her. Mecca claimed that Geyser fled the group home because she was being banned from seeing her. According to the police report, they were headed to Nashville, Tennessee. They didn't make it very far, though. They got picked up here. There's the body camera video. It was a loitering complaint Sunday night, and this is how it all unfolded.
So, Stephanie. Give me your real name. Okay? Because if he comes back, no record on file also, which I hope he doesn't, because that means both of you are lying, I'm going to take you both in for fingerprints. Okay? Don't make us do all that. We just want to send you on your way. No, you can't. You guys wanted for something? Why are you hiding your name? I don't understand.
But you didn't come back to anything either. Even out of Wisconsin.
I just don't want my identity out.
Okay.
It's just personal preference.
Okay. You can have that personal preference, but we're going to have that preference of taking you in and fingerprinting you. Okay? That's what we're going to do.
Is there any way to avoid that without...
Yeah, give us your right name.
Just give us your real name and that's
we
it.
We can go on our way. We don't want to mess with you. We don't want to take you in and fingerprint you. But if that's what I have to do, I have to make sure you're not wanted for anything, no homicides or anything like that. That's it.
I can promise you
Okay.
that. And I know
I don't know you and you don't know me.
I know.
Okay? So
You just gotta identify who you guys are, that's it.
make sure you ain't wanted for no warrants, and then you're
Okay.
good. Stephanie, one last chance.
Both of you guys have the last opportunity.
This is your last opportunity.
Okay, let's try this again.
I don't know what you're
What's
so
your
scared
what's your last name?
Please just let me go. Please, I didn't break
Can
the
we
law.
please let her go?
So,
I didn't
You
break
did
the
by
law.
lying to the
break in
officer.
And you guys are loitering
Federal
here.
statute of obstruction identification at this moment, which is a Class A misdemeanor. That's a arrestable offense. Therefore, you can be placed under arrest for that. Both of you, because you lied and you lied. You give me your real name.
And we got dispatched here because you guys are loitering in the back of the business. It's not like we
When the
opposed you
sign's
guys.
posted, there's no loitering. Okay?
I'm sorry.
Okay? So it's not a big deal. What is your name? Don't make us go arrest you and do all this extra stuff that we don't need to do.
We have other stuff to worry
I
about.
know. We got way more serious things to worry about than this. But we got called here. It ain't like we just walked up and started messing with you.
All right, eventually Morgan Geyser fessed up, said, Google me, I did something horrible, and admitted who she was. She was taken into custody there in Illinois, made her first initial court appearance yesterday in Illinois. She's expected back on Tuesday. Now, the other person, Mecca, was arrested but was released. Geyser appeared and waived her right to extradition during that hearing yesterday. So she'll be headed back to Wisconsin, and then it will be time to sort it all out. What do you do with her? How do you handle now Morgan Geyser? All the work that went into her conditional release into that halfway house from the state mental hospital is, I guess, gone, right? Well, let's find out. Let's talk about it with our experts. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borchardt, criminal defense attorney, civil rights attorney, Casey Early, and law enforcement analyst and trial consultant Sonny Slaughter. Good morning to all of you. Franz, this case, you just can imagine the disgust that all of the people that worked to get her out of that mental hospital into the halfway house in Madison is now gone, obliterated. Waukesha County has already said they're going to be urging the state to file a motion to basically repeal that conditional release and send her back to the state hospital. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that that's the appropriate move. In the absence of some kind of plan, I don't see how you can justify not revoking her. Now, on the other side of it, Ted, and I'm going to say something that's probably not very popular, this is what individuals with mental health issues do. They do irrational things that seem to fly in the face of understanding and logic because they have issues. It doesn't mean we give them a free pass, but we can't be terribly shocked that someone that has issues is doing something in it almost descriptive of the issues. So in the absence of some kind of secondary plan, I think that she goes back into the institution where she'll stay until everything is resolved.
Casey, the individual she was found with in an interview said it is my fault. Basically taking the blame for it. They met at church in Madison and then concocted this horrible idea to try to get themselves to Nashville. Does that help her, hurt her in any way that this other person may have coerced her to do it?
I don't see how that really helps, because at the end of the day, it wasn't like she was under duress or she was forced. Like, she still left on her own free will. She still cut off the GPS monitor on her own free will. And, I take the position that this is totally a violation. This shows that she is not ready to go back into the public. She's not ready to follow the rules. And frankly, I don't even believe that her mental illness or issues came into play here, because she was sound enough to give the wrong name. Look how long law enforcement was standing there just asking for her name to identify herself. She misled them. She continued to, carry on until finally she said, I did something bad. She's in the right state of mind. She didn't want to be there. She violated the rules. Revoke any conditional release. Send her back to the psychiatric hospital, because she clearly needs the help that she so desperately is calling for. And she's a danger to the community. So if I was a prosecutor, I'm going all in. Go back. You can't follow rules.
Sonny, from an investigative standpoint, these cops did a great job just not letting it go. I mean, clearly, they didn't want to deal with this. There's a couple kids sleeping in the back of a convenience store. They get out of here. Just tell us your names and you can go home. But they didn't. They stuck with it and ended up taking her into custody. What should happen to her now?
First of all, good morning to everyone. She should have never been released. I was never for her release, because I did not believe that she was ready for it, because she committed too many violations while she was still in their care. On the internet, her interactions with individuals that she should not have been interacting with. Law enforcement did a wonderful job, but it was 3 law enforcement officers trying to get information from her and the other individual. And like Casey said, that was far too much time. They wasted resources. She cut off an ankle monitor. I do not believe this is related to her alleged mental health issues. And when I say alleged, what she had at 12, she does not have right now. She has full capacity of her thought, and she was ready to evade law enforcement. And I think she should go back immediately and should not be released. They did not have a proper plan in place. And this person is a danger to all of us, and particularly to the victim, who was never notified that she had escaped. This is horrific, and Wisconsin needs to get it together right now.
Yeah, there was an issue there with the notification of the family that was the victim in this case. Franz, what happened? So help me understand. Goes from a mental hospital, prosecutors fight it. She ends up convincing a judge for this conditional release at a halfway house with a... Is there no monitoring at all in a halfway house? How is she just gets to go wherever and meet whoever, and is that how it works?
There may not be monitoring in this halfway house, but most halfway houses have monitoring. And look, this is an individual that cut off their ankle monitor. So the systematic failure is who was personing or manning the ankle monitor when it was cut off or when it stopped becoming responsive. Who was alerted. The halfway house, somebody should have noticed, hey, she's gone. Like, maybe we need to alert somebody. So yeah, this is the secondary issue is the failure of the monitoring. And this isn't, by the way, Ted, this is a bigger conversation, national trend of monitoring companies not really monitoring. So I think that's a huge red flag in this state of how is it in the world, because it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, absolutely. If she had escaped, cut it off and done something, it would have been night and day from what it was. Everybody stick around. We're going to get a break. When we come back, still ahead on opening statements.
There were also more Google searches on January 2nd. Hacksaw best tool to dismember. Can you be charged with murder without a body? Can you identify a body with broken teeth?
We're spotlighting the murder trial for Brian Walsh. Opening statements set to begin next week. But first, so many rumors swirling in the death investigation of teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez. What really happened to her? We'll break it down when we return. Stay with us.
The Court TV podcast will return.
That's Singer David. A lot of conflicting information about him and the body found in his Tesla. That's what's trending in true crime this morning, and whether the remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez were discovered partially frozen or not. The Los Angeles police saying now it's not true. Adding, really? Frozen? How do you think she was in there for weeks and weeks in the blazing Southern California summer sun. Of course, her body was not frozen. That's what the LAPD is now saying. Court order requested by the LAPD, though, has halted the release of all records and details associated with her death. Singer David has been identified as a potential suspect. There's word of another possible unidentified second suspect. Multiple sources say David is no longer cooperating with authorities, but no arrests have been made. So we're asking why all the conflicting information, and wouldn't it just be easier to release the official information to stop the rumors and find out exactly what happened to Celeste? Well, attorneys Franz Borkart, Geyser Early, and law enforcement expert Sonny Slaughter still here. Sonny, start with you on this. The investigation, it's long. On one end, no one's going anywhere. The body decomposed. What do you think's happening here, and what are the hurdles for the LAPD in terms of figuring out what happened?
You know, I think this case is so interesting. But I think that is really important, as much as we all want the information, in order to protect the integrity of the investigation, which is still ongoing, that they need to tamper down on the release of any information because it can interfere with the investigative process. While I'm a proponent of sharing information with the public for transparency, I am also a staunch proponent of ensuring that law enforcement is doing everything that they must do and can do to get the right person, because far too often there's questions about whether the person that they have in custody is the right person. And if we don't protect the integrity of the investigation, they can't ensure that they have everything that they need, and then they come up against someone like me behind the scenes saying, you didn't do this right, and that's why it's falling apart. So while we want information, they need to hold it close to the vest in order to get the right information and the right culprits of this particular crime.
The problem, of course, with a high-profile case like this one is the wrong information gets out into the public sphere. We've got conflicting information basically from the beginning. Frozen body, that was out there. That was floated out there. We also had these reports that she was dismembered or decapitated. Well, that's not clear anymore. And then David's cooperation. At first, David's people came out right away. Oh, yes, cooperating, doing everything we can. And now we're hearing, again, from whispers out of the LAPD sources, is that no, he's not. He's not cooperating at all. And so this is an issue, I would think, in a high-profile case, Casey, because if I'm the family and I'm thinking, what, she was frozen and she was decapitated and her arms and legs were possibly taken off, it's horrifying. So they want to do some damage control on one end. On the other hand, they're shutting down the medical examiner, don't want anything released. Well, your thoughts overall on how they're handling it and how tricky it is, really, this tightrope?
Yeah, I mean, there is several different types of information that's coming out that is conflicted. And I think that this is the law enforcement trying to give information to the public, but also continue their investigation. I mean, this case is filled with questions, but there's also some obvious things that even the public can see. We knew that he had some involvement, right? But typically in cases like this, and I deal with murder cases all the time, what law enforcement or even the state will do is take the weakest link. So now there is reports that there was a second possible suspect that assisted with dismembering or transporting the body. So maybe there's a possibility later on down the road when charges are formally filed that they'll take that weakest link and possibly use him to testify against David, who we all know is the prime suspect in this case. We know that there could have been a possible relationship. We know the matching tattoos and the possible motive. But in this case, there's a possibility that the second suspect may testify against him and then be charged with accessory after the fact. But again, this is typical with high-profile cases. You want to give some information to the public, but the downfall is if it's still an ongoing investigation, typically that changes. So this is typical.
Franz, how important is the fact that her body was in that frunk, as they call it, the front part of that Tesla, for weeks and weeks and decomposed to the point where this may be a situation where they don't know the cause of death. They don't have enough from her remains to really build a murder case, if indeed that's what they believe happened. But because if you think of it, could have been a drug overdose, getting rid of the body, could have been a myriad of things. How difficult might this case be if and when it enters a courtroom?
I think it becomes difficult to convict for a murder if you can't determine what the cause of death is. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't pursue some kind of wrong behavior. Look, there's a phrase, possession is 9/10 of the law. Where's the body? If the body's in your trunk, you've got an issue. And just because they haven't moved on him yet doesn't mean they won't move on him. But bigger picture is if they can't determine the cause of death, that's going to be a big problem. But also the other piece is, Ted, this is not just a homicide. There are other major red flag questions. How old is she? What was she doing where she was? These are questions that are going to possibly leave prosecutors some wiggle room on what they can decide to pursue and when they decide to pursue it.
Absolutely. And this is an up-and-coming artist who was really taking off. And there were rumors, online that this was an inappropriate relationship. We're talking about a 14-year-old girl involved possibly with this singer. Sonny, getting someone to crack, I would think, is massive in a case like this, and time is on investigators' side.
You're absolutely right. They need the right person. They need them to be skillful in their questioning and technique. And I think they're going to take as much time as they need to get it, if they want to get it done right. And as Franz just said, there are some underlining things. Is she the only one? And I'm talking about not necessarily that's deceased, but potential for other individuals who are young, who are in this orbit. Any other sexual abuse, any other trauma, what's going on around here? So they need a person with excellent investigative skills, particularly someone who can interview really, really well and relate to the individual. We'll see what happens.
And Casey, this is an up-and-coming artist. This isn't someone with a ton of banked credit, if you will, in the public sphere. His notoriety, it's not going to help him at all, is it, in terms of getting any sort of break?
No, absolutely not. We know that no one is above the law in this case. And I think, just as my colleague stated, that if this was an inappropriate relationship, could there have been others, maybe with his notoriety or maybe with his celebrity and fame, there might be possible other alleged victims who was in a relationship with him and may come forward, which will possibly help the state have some form of motive as to why this was committed, although we have our speculation. But we know motive is not even necessary. We just need to know that a crime was committed. These elements were met by the state, and he was the one that committed the crime. So his fame, his celebrity has no bearing on this case.
Yeah, the crime that is committed, what was the crime? Was it murder? Did she die accidentally? Did they freak out and dead girl in the house, put her in the trunk? There's so many unanswered questions. We'll see as this thing moves along. But it's trickling out of Los Angeles. That's in terms of information, that's for sure. Let's get a break. We want to thank Franz, Casey, and Sonny. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Coming up on Opening Statements.
It had become evident that Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair. The oldest child's iPad begins to visit websites concerning how long does it take for a dead body to smell? How long does it take for someone to be missing to be declared dead?
Brian Walsh gearing up for his murder trial. Jury selection continues. Opening statements, actually, the jury's been seated, and the openings are set for Monday. We'll be watching that here on Court TV. Plus, child killer Shonda Vander Ark. She wants a new trial. Well, she tried to get her hearing delayed yesterday because she claimed she had a pounding headache. The prosecutor from that hearing joins us live.
She has a pounding headache. and it doesn't help. You know, it's a stressful situation. She has a thyroid issue. She pointed out to me that it's protruding.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Good to have you along with us. This morning, our spotlight is on Brian Walsh, the Massachusetts father accused of murdering and dismembering his wife, Anna. Her body's never been found. Opening statements are expected to begin in this case on Monday. How did we get here? Well, Court TV's crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson fills us in.
No comment from Brian Walsh after he was charged with the murder of his wife, Anna Walsh, the missing Massachusetts mother of 3 young boys. And while he's not talking, prosecutors are piecing together a timeline of what they say he was doing in the days after her disappearance. Anna was last seen at home between 4 and 5 a.m. by a family member. Walsh told police that he had slept in that morning, but prosecutors say that he was actually awake and searching disturbing topics on his son's iPad.
At 4:55 a.m. on January 1st, he searched how long before a body starts to smell. At 4:58 a.m., how to stop a body from decomposing. At 5:20 a.m., he searched how to embalm a body. At 5:47 a.m., 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. At 6:25 a.m. on the 1st, how long for someone to be missing to inherit. At 6:34 a.m. on the 1st, can you throw away body parts?
The very next day, more Google searches.
There were also more Google searches on January 2nd. At 12:45 p.m., hacksaw best tool to dismember. At 1:10 p.m., can you be charged with murder without a body? At 1:14 p.m., can you identify a body with broken teeth?
Prosecutors say that on January 2nd, Walsh came here to this Home Depot store, located in Rockland, Massachusetts, 9 miles from his house. He spent $450 on cleaning supplies.
Items included cleaning products, mops, brushes.
On January 3rd, prosecutors say Walsh drove to an apartment complex in Abington, 16 miles from his home, where they say surveillance video shows him hoisting a heavy garbage bag into a dumpster. At 4:48 p.m., prosecutors say Walsh drove to a second apartment complex in Abington. And at 5:10 p.m., investigators say he threw items away into a dumpster in Brockton. Then on January 6th and 7th, police searched the Walsh property in Cohasset. Prosecutors collected a lot of evidence in the basement of this home, including DNA blood evidence and 2 knives. On January 8th, Walsh was arrested for misleading police in his wife's missing person investigation.
The defendant is now before the court charged with murder of his wife, Anna Walsh, as well as disinterring of a body.
Okay, again, opening statements set to begin next week. Thank you to Matt Johnson. For more on the case, let's bring in from Massachusetts, trial attorney Wayne Dennison. Wayne, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. I want to talk about the strategic decision Walsh and his team made by pleading guilty to the lessers and basically getting off of the table the horrific details that might have clouded a jury. I mean, I think he's cooked anyway, given the amount of evidence, but let's start there.
Yeah, the strategy there was a little strange to begin with. The notion that there is no body, therefore there is no crime, was always the defense here. In fact, he basically Googled it. But now he's admitted to a body. And so this looks to me like it's going to come down to a question of whether the prosecution can establish adequately a cause of death. And this will be the obligation, the burden of proof on the prosecution to say that he caused the death of Anna Walsh. And that strategy minimized the amount of horrible dismemberment testimony you were otherwise going to hear. But that evidence is nevertheless coming in.
So we should expect possibly opening statements from the defense as you're going to hear, possibly from the defendant, that there was a horrible accident. She fell down the stairs and he didn't know what to do. And that's why he got rid of his wife's body. He got scared. Is that the only, I mean, it seems like the very small window they've created for themselves.
There are two paths here that I see possible, and they may in fact be combined. They're either going to come forward with an explanation as to how she died and then try to sell it. And the only way you could possibly sell it is with Brian Walsh testifying. But he has some impairments to begin with, given his pending criminal charges and the fact he was on house arrest. Or they're just simply going to come in and say, he's been charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution has an obligation to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. They cannot prove cause of death. They cannot prove premeditation. They cannot prove extreme cruelty in the manner in which he died. Therefore, they cannot prove first-degree murder.
How much play is this getting in New England? Is this a case people are monitoring?
It's getting an enormous amount of play, second only to the Karen Reed case that was tried in the same courthouse. It's very well known. That's why Judge Fournier has asked the jury, in fact, directed the jury not to look at social media, not to watch the news, because it will be played on every news channel in the greater Boston, greater New England area.
And here on Court TV as well. The details of this, the Google searches from his son's iPad at these hours in the morning you could just visualize this guy with a dead body next to him going to town on the iPad thinking, oh boy, I'll just use my son's iPad. They'll never figure that one out. And then he does what every dumb criminal does. He goes to the local Home Depot. I mean, it seems like the Commonwealth has one heck of a case here.
I think they do have one heck of a case here, but they still have to prove how she died, or at least get to a circumstance under which the jury would conclude that he murdered her. And that's the ultimate bar for the prosecution here, and that's the narrow window you talked about that the defendant here is trying to get through. The difference here between first-degree murder, it means that he stays in jail for the rest of his life. If he can get that charge reduced to a lesser included charge, he has a possibility of parole.
Yeah, well, we'll be watching to see it all play out. I think the opening statements will really be telling to see which strategy the defense is going to go with as we get ready here. We'll all be watching. Wayne, as always, thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving. Appreciate your time on this Wednesday. Still to come.
Would it be your preference to testify at another time?
Absolutely. I feel like garbage.
Will child killer Shonda Vander Ark get a new trial? She was in court yesterday for hearing, but as you heard, she felt like garbage, maybe too many apples consumed over the last week. Prosecutor from that hearing is going to join us live next.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Based on what I have, I don't think there's good cause for an adjournment based on a headache, because that's all really the record's been made. And the only person that can judge if she really has a headache or not, quite frankly, is Miss Vander Ark. And I don't know if she's telling the truth or not. I have no clue.
The old headache excuse didn't work. Not with this judge. Didn't buy it. And the hearing yesterday went on for convicted child killer Shonda Vander Ark. She wants a new trial. She, of course, was convicted of torturing and starving her 15-year-old son, Timothy, to death. Of all of the defendants we've had here at Court TV, she ranks up there with the most hated. The crimes that she was convicted of are just deplorable. At the end of the day, Timothy lost his life in an excruciating way. And she's now blaming her former attorney, Fred Johnson, for her guilty verdict and says that he was ineffective. So here we are. Vander Ark tried to delay Tuesday's hearing, though, saying that she was sick and had a bad headache. Here's what she said about her condition. when testifying.
Well, first off, your medical condition, let's just briefly go through that. How is your condition right now?
I'm miserable. I'm lightheaded. My head is just splitting. The back of my neck hurts constantly. It's something that goes along with the thyroid issue, I guess. I've been shaking. This is almost constant now. It started a couple days a week for a few hours at a time, and it's almost constant now.
Would it be your preference to testify at another time?
Absolutely. I feel like garbage.
All right, here's Vander Ark's former attorney, Fred Johnson, being questioned by Vander Ark's appellate attorney.
From day one, Ms. Vander Ark said that she was not guilty of this offense. She maintained her innocence. Is that correct?
As I've said, I never asked her if she did it, and I don't recall her saying, I didn't do this.
So bottom line is the hearing is going to be continued at a later date. Vander Ark's testimony will continue as this moves through. It's the other thing to think about here is she's an attorney, and she's a smart one at that. Passed her bar apparently, just missing one question, and so she's on some level an admirable foe in terms of this. Well, let's bring in the other side. State attorney on the case, Muskegon County Assistant Senior Prosecutor Heather Bloomquist is with us this morning. Let's start with the hearing yesterday. First we heard about her apple-eating escapades earlier in the week in prison, and then she shows up with a splitting headache, wants to continue the hearing that she wanted to try to get herself out of prison. Overall, what are you dealing with here, trying to go up against this very unique defendant?
Well, first, thank you for having me on this morning. And as it relates to this case, you're right. This is a very unique circumstance in that this defendant has more knowledge based on her training. And so I think that leads to some gamesmanship, as Judge Casel had mentioned, that he had found that there was some gamesmanship with this delay. And so it does create a unique set of circumstances for the prosecution. And it is what we anticipate and what we are ready to counter, which is why, I made the argument that her headache is not good cause for an adjournment. And I would say many attorneys throughout the whole nation would say they've proceeded to court with a headache or with some ailment, and they just push through. So that's not good cause under the court rules. But unfortunately, we did have a time constraint with the hearing itself, so we will be back for a second day.
The ineffective assistance counsel, it's very wide-reaching in many cases, but she's zeroed in on a couple things. And the one thing that one might believe has a little bit of traction was that her attorney, Fred Johnson, argued in his closing, basically, give her manslaughter. This is what you people should come back with. And Chandra's zeroed in on that, saying, well, wait a minute. He was pushing them to say, I did this when I have never admitted guilt. What's your take on her argument, and why is it, in your opinion, a faulty one?
Well, so ultimately, these types of claims, there's two pieces that the defense has to prove. And the ultimate one is prejudice, meaning that this claimed deficiency affected the outcome of the proceedings. This claimed concession cannot affect the outcome of the proceedings when she wasn't convicted of it. So I'm not saying that Mr. Johnson was deficient. I don't think he was. But even assuming that she gets that prong, she can't satisfy the second prong when that's not what the jury found. They disagreed with Mr. Johnson, saying that this was manslaughter. So she can't show that the outcome would be different.
Yeah, I mean, and from a trial strategy, there was so much evidence here against the client that was his strategy. Hey, you got to admit something, because these people have watched in horror the evidence come in, and so go manslaughter, that would be a huge win in his mind. Here he is, Fred Johnson, on direct, talking about that decision to argue manslaughter in the close.
And you told the jury, these people, and I'm assuming you meant Paul as well, these people committed manslaughter. That's what they did.
Yes, sir.
They caused the boy's death. That's
yes,
what
sir.
Now, Ms. Vander Ark never gave you consent to say that she was guilty of anything, did she?
No, sir.
And so you kind of took it upon yourself to make that argument to the jury.
Yes, sir.
And to your point, Heather, the jury didn't go along with him. They said, no, she's going down for murder. The other thing that Fred Johnson talked about on the stand yesterday, which really was sobering, was his description of the video that he was able to successfully get out in pretrial motions, so the jury never saw it. How bad was that video? I mean, he says it's the worst thing he's ever seen in his life.
I agree with Mr. Johnson. It's the worst thing I've seen in my life. That video, I think it was a very good strategic decision on his part to have this piece of evidence dealt with in this way by stipulation or by agreement. The video is highly relevant. I don't think that there would be any sort of merit to keeping it out from playing it, but I think the parties recognizing the sheer graphic nature of this video, and it's unfortunately something that you can never unsee. And so I think that strategy of allowing the commentary was sound, and he even testified that was the best decision and best thing that he felt happened strategically in the case. And I agree with him on that front.
And because, yeah, if you get the video in now, you do have something possibly on appeal that could have some weight. You didn't need it. Just the description during the trial was enough to get to the heart of what happened. Her argument was that I didn't know that my other son was doing this to poor Timothy. Is there any doubt in your mind that she was running the show?
Well, ultimately, the evidence is what shows that she was the one directing what happened. We have the text messages and ample evidence showing that she was culpable. She knew what was happening, and that's what the jury found, and that's what the evidence showed.
Next steps here. How long does this process take? I mean, our viewers want it shut down and have her just go away. I don't think she'll always fight, but give us a sense of how long you're going to continue. This hearing was continued. What are the next steps here?
So the next steps from here, ultimately, we'll finish up this hearing with another day. I don't anticipate it'll go beyond another day, but unexpected things happen, as we saw yesterday morning. But we'll have one more day of hearing. Judge Kaisel will make his decision on this claim for a new trial. And then ultimately, I anticipate that she'll be filing an appeal with the Michigan Court of Appeals. And our office will be continuing to fight against that.
Heather, got to run. Thank you so much for your time. Great work. Happy Thanksgiving.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.